Chapter 1. The Stonecutter's Dream. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled at the foot of a mountain, lived a humble stonecutter. Day in and day out, he would work with his hammer and chisel, breaking large stones into smaller pieces for the villagers. It was tiring, back-breaking work, but the stonecutter performed his duties without complaint. One hot afternoon, while he was working under the blazing sun, he paused for a moment to wipe the sweat from his brow. As he looked up toward the sky, he couldn't help but wonder. He sighed and whispered to himself, "How lucky those wealthy men must be. They have everything they want, while I struggle every day just to get by." To his surprise, a mysterious voice echoed around him. "Is that what you desire? To be a wealthy man?" The stonecutter looked around but saw no one. Still, the temptation of wealth was too strong to ignore. "Yes," he replied, "I wish I were rich." In an instant, the stonecutter found himself standing in a grand palace, dressed in fine clothes, surrounded by treasures beyond his wildest dreams. Servants attended to his every need, and he no longer had to work under the scorching sun. For a while, the stonecutter was content. But as time passed, he noticed something that troubled him. Each day, the sun would rise, shining so brightly that even the richest man had to seek shelter from its heat. The sun, the stonecutter thought, is more powerful than wealth. It rules over all. Once again, the mysterious voice whispered in his ear, "Do you now wish to be the sun?" Without hesitation, the stonecutter nodded. "Yes, I wish to be the sun." In the blink of an eye, he was transformed into the sun, radiating light and warmth across the land. He felt powerful, knowing that all creatures depended on him for life. But soon, he realized that even his mighty rays could be blocked by the clouds. The stonecutter frowned, realizing that clouds were stronger than the sun. The voice returned, soft and familiar, asking, "Would you like to be a cloud?" "Yes," the stonecutter exclaimed, "make me a cloud." And so he became a cloud, drifting freely across the sky. He poured rain upon the earth, soaking fields, rivers, and mountains. But one day, as he rained down upon a rocky cliff, he noticed that no matter how hard he tried, the stones remained unbroken, unbothered by his powerful storm. It was then that he realized something. "The rock is stronger than even the clouds," he mused. And when the voice came again, he didn't wait for the question. "I want to be a rock." And so, the stonecutter became a massive, immovable rock, towering over the landscape, defying the elements. Now, he thought, no one could be more powerful than him. But as he stood there, basking in his new strength, he felt something small but persistent chipping away at his surface. A stonecutter. With each strike of the chisel, the rock began to crack and break apart. In that moment, the stonecutter understood the truth. The power he had been searching for was within him all along, even when he was just a simple stonecutter. No wealth, no sun, no cloud or rock could ever compare to the strength he already possessed. And with that realization, he returned to his former self, content in knowing that true power comes not from wishing to be something else, but from embracing who you are. True power comes from accepting and embracing who you are, not from wishing to be someone else. Chapter 2. The Elephant Rope. In a small village, a group of travelers happened upon an extraordinary sight. A row of enormous elephants stood quietly, their massive legs tied with nothing more than thin, fragile ropes. No cages, no chains, just a simple rope looped around their feet. The travelers were baffled. How can these enormous creatures be held back by something so weak? One of them asked. Surely they could break free with just a tug. Curiosity got the better of them, and they approached the trainer who was sitting nearby. The trainer, an old man with a weathered face and kind eyes, noticed their bewilderment and smiled knowingly. "I can tell you're wondering why they don't break free," he said, his voice soft yet filled with wisdom. The travelers nodded in unison. "It makes no sense," one of them said. "Why don't they just walk away?" The old man leaned forward and began to tell them a story about the very elephants standing before them. "You see," the trainer began, "these elephants have been tied with this same rope since they were very young. When they were just small calves, this rope was strong enough to hold them. They would try to break free, pulling and struggling with all their might, but they couldn't. Over time, they learned that no matter how hard they tried, the rope would always hold them back." The travelers exchanged glances, now beginning to understand. "As they grew older and stronger," the trainer continued, "the elephants no longer tried to break free. They believed that the rope was still as strong as it had been when they were small. They carry the memory of their past attempts, and now they don't even try to escape. In their minds, they are still bound by that same unbreakable rope." The travelers fell silent, contemplating the depth of the trainer's words. One of them finally spoke. "But surely, if they only realized their strength now, they could easily break free." The trainer nodded slowly. "Yes, they could, but they won't, because they believe they can't." As the travelers walked away, the story of the elephants lingered in their minds. It wasn't the rope that was holding the elephants back. It was the belief they had formed in their youth, a belief that had stayed with them even though it no longer reflected reality. Don't let past failures or limiting beliefs hold you back from achieving your true potential. Just because you couldn't do something before doesn't mean you can't do it now. Chapter 3. The Butterfly's Struggle. One warm spring afternoon, a young boy discovered a cocoon nestled in the branches of a tree in his garden. Fascinated by the delicate yet mysterious sight, he crouched down to observe it more closely. He had heard stories of how caterpillars transform into butterflies, and he couldn't wait to witness the miracle of life unfold right in front of him. Days passed, and the boy visited the cocoon every morning, eager for signs of change. Finally, one day, he saw the cocoon trembling. The butterfly inside was struggling to emerge. It fought hard, pushing and wriggling to break free from its confined space. The boy watched intently, but as time went on, he grew concerned. The butterfly seemed to be stuck, unable to escape its tiny prison. Feeling a surge of compassion, the boy decided to help. He gently reached out, carefully tearing open a small part of the cocoon, making it easier for the butterfly to escape. The butterfly emerged, its wings crumpled and weak. The boy expected it to flutter its beautiful wings and take flight, but something was wrong. The butterfly didn't fly. It stumbled awkwardly, its wings too fragile to support its body. The boy waited, hoping the butterfly would gather its strength, but it never did. It spent the rest of its life crawling on the ground, its wings never fully developing. Heartbroken, the boy told his father what had happened, seeking answers. His father, wise and gentle, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and explained the lesson behind the butterfly's struggle. "Son," his father said, "what you didn't realize is that the butterfly needed to struggle. It's the process of fighting to break free from the cocoon that strengthens its wings. Without that struggle, the butterfly cannot fly. By trying to help it, you took away its chance to become strong." The boy listened quietly, his heart heavy with understanding. He had meant well, but his actions had unintended consequences. The butterfly's struggle wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a necessary part of its growth. From that day forward, the boy learned to respect life's natural processes, realizing that sometimes struggles are essential for growth. Struggles and challenges are a part of life, and they make us stronger. Don't shy away from difficulty. It is often what helps us grow into our true potential. Chapter 4. The Blind Girl's Love. Once, in a bustling city, there lived a young girl who was blind. Her world was wrapped in darkness, and although she could not see the beauty that surrounded her, there was one light in her life, her boyfriend. He loved her dearly and stood by her side no matter what, always telling her how beautiful she was and how much he loved her. The girl often felt insecure and resentful of her blindness. She couldn't imagine why her boyfriend would love someone like her, someone who couldn't even see him or the world around them. She would often say, "If only I could see, I would marry you. But without sight, I feel trapped in this darkness." Her boyfriend would smile sadly and reply, "I love you for who you are, not for what you can or cannot see." Days passed, and the girl grew more and more frustrated with her blindness. She longed for the day when she could see the world and her boyfriend, who had always been her rock. Then one fateful day, the news she had been praying for arrived. A donor had been found for her, and soon she would be able to see again. Excited beyond words, the girl underwent the surgery, and after some days of recovery, the bandages were removed. For the first time in her life, light flooded her eyes, and she saw the world in all its colors. She could see the trees swaying in the wind, the sun shining brightly in the sky, and most importantly, she saw her boyfriend. But then her heart sank. Her boyfriend was blind. He stood there, holding her hands, waiting for her reaction, his eyes clouded and unfocused. In shock, the girl pulled away, unable to process the truth. "You're blind," she whispered. "Yes," he said softly, "I am. But that has never mattered to me, because I love you." The girl couldn't comprehend what she was feeling. Now that she could see, she wanted to experience the world fully, without the limitations that blindness brought. Marrying a blind man felt like a burden to her. Without another word, she left him. Days turned into weeks, and the girl tried to enjoy her new life with her vision restored, but something was missing. She couldn't forget about her boyfriend, who had stood by her through all her darkest moments. Then one day, she received a letter from him. In the letter, he wrote, "My love, please take care of my eyes." It hit her like a storm. The donor who had given her the gift of sight, it was him. He had given her the ability to see, even though it meant he would remain in darkness. The sacrifice he had made for her was greater than anything she could have ever imagined. Her heart ached with regret, realizing how shallow her reaction had been. He had loved her selflessly. Yet, in her moment of clarity, she had failed to see the depth of his love. True love is not about physical appearances or what someone can give you. It's about selfless care, loyalty, and understanding. Never take for granted the people who love you for who you are. Chapter 5. The Pencil Maker's Secret. In a cozy little workshop, a pencil maker was hard at work, crafting his pencils with precision and care. Each pencil he created was unique, though they all shared a common purpose: to bring ideas and stories to life. One day, as the pencil maker was finishing his work, he called over a freshly made pencil, ready to pass on some wisdom before sending it out into the world. "My little pencil," the pencil maker said gently, "before I let you go, there are 5 important lessons you must learn. Remember them always, for they will guide you as you leave my workshop and find your way into the hands of others." The pencil, eager to fulfill its purpose, listened carefully. First, the pencil maker began, everything you do in life will leave a mark. You may not always realize it, but with every stroke, every line, every word, you will be making an impact. So be mindful of the marks you leave behind. The pencil thought about this. I will try to make my marks meaningful, it said, understanding the responsibility it carried. Second, the pencil maker continued, you can always correct your mistakes. No matter how many times you may go astray, you will always have the ability to fix what went wrong. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but remember to learn from them and make things right. The pencil felt reassured by this. It was comforting to know that mistakes were not the end, but part of the journey. Third, the pencil maker said, what matters most is not what's on the outside, but what's inside. The core of who you are is what truly counts. Your outer appearance may change, you may get worn down, but your value lies within you. The lead inside. The pencil felt proud, knowing that its worth came from its inner core, not its exterior. Fourth, the pencil maker said with a smile, you will undergo painful sharpening from time to time, but it's necessary for you to become better. The sharpening process may hurt, but it will shape you into the tool you were meant to be. The pencil shuddered at the thought of the sharpener's blade, but understood the wisdom in the pencil maker's words. Growth often required discomfort. And finally, the pencil maker said, you must allow yourself to be held in the hand of another. You cannot achieve your true purpose alone. It's only when you are in the hands of a writer, an artist, or a dreamer that you will create something beautiful. Allow yourself to be guided. The pencil felt ready now, having absorbed all the lessons the pencil maker had shared. I will remember your words, it promised, and I will try my best to fulfill my purpose. With that, the pencil maker smiled and placed the pencil gently into a box, ready for it to begin its journey. As the pencil left the workshop and ventured into the world, it carried with it the wisdom of the pencil maker's lessons. It knew that no matter what challenges or changes it faced, it had the power to leave a mark, fix its mistakes, and grow stronger through sharpening. It knew its true worth came from within. Like the pencil, we all have the power to leave a lasting impact on the world. It's not our external appearance, but our inner strength and the lessons we learn that define our true worth. Chapter 6. The Farmer and the Bamboo. In a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a humble farmer. His crops had always been plentiful, and the village relied on him for food. But the farmer had a dream to grow something different, something that would stand tall and strong in the village for generations to come. He wanted to grow bamboo. Now, bamboo wasn't like the other crops the farmer was used to growing. It took time, patience, and care. Despite knowing how difficult it would be, the farmer decided to plant bamboo seeds. He tilled the soil, planted the seeds, and watered them every day. He nurtured them with the same love and dedication that he gave to all his crops, hopeful that the bamboo would soon begin to sprout. The first year passed, and nothing happened. The farmer didn't give up. He continued to water and tend to the bamboo seeds every single day, confident that they would eventually grow. His neighbors, however, began to question his efforts. Why are you wasting your time on something that isn't growing? They would ask. You've been tending to that soil for so long, and still there's nothing to show for it. The farmer simply smiled and kept working. Another year passed, then another, and still the bamboo didn't grow. By the fourth year, people in the village had begun to laugh at the farmer's stubbornness. They mocked him, saying he was chasing a dream that would never come true. But the farmer remained patient. He believed in the process. Finally, in the fifth year, something miraculous happened. One day, the farmer woke up to find that the bamboo had started to sprout. At first, tiny green shoots pushed their way through the soil. But then, within just a few weeks, the bamboo grew 90 feet tall. The villagers were astonished. How could something that hadn't shown any signs of life for 5 years suddenly grow so tall, so quickly? The farmer, however, knew the answer. The bamboo wasn't just sitting there doing nothing, he explained to the villagers. During all those years, it was growing underground, developing a strong root system that would support its rapid growth. It needed that foundation before it could shoot up into the sky. The farmer's patience had paid off. His bamboo now stood tall and strong, a testament to the power of persistence and the importance of laying a solid foundation. Success doesn't always happen overnight. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean progress isn't being made. Be patient and persistent. Great things often take time to grow. Chapter 7. The Mountain of Life. In a small village at the foot of a towering mountain, there lived a young boy named Arjun. Every morning, as the sun rose and painted the sky in golden hues, Arjun would gaze up at the mountain's peak, which seemed to touch the heavens. He had always wondered what lay beyond that great summit, but no one in the village had ever dared to climb it. The villagers had their own lives to lead, farming, trading, living simple but content lives. But Arjun's heart yearned for something more. He didn't just want to live beneath the mountain. He wanted to conquer it. One day, he decided that it was time to set out on the journey of a lifetime. He packed his bag, said his goodbyes, and with a heart full of dreams, began his climb. The path was steep and the journey long. At first, it seemed like an exciting adventure. The trees whispered encouragement, and the wind carried the scent of freedom. But as he climbed higher, the path became more treacherous, and the air grew thin. Hours turned into days, and Arjun began to tire. His muscles ached, his feet were blistered, and his spirit started to wane. There were moments when he thought about turning back. The comforts of home called to him. But every time he looked up at the summit, so close, yet so far, something inside him pushed him forward. On his way up, he encountered many obstacles: fallen trees, rocky paths, and fierce storms. At one point, he slipped and nearly fell off a cliff. The fear of the unknown weighed heavy on him, but Arjun had come too far to quit. He knew that the only way to reach the peak was to keep going, step by step. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Arjun reached the summit. He stood at the top of the mountain, breathless, looking out at the world below. The view was breathtaking. Endless valleys, rivers flowing like silver ribbons, and a horizon that stretched into infinity. The world was so much bigger and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. But as he stood there, something unexpected happened. Arjun realized that while the view was magnificent, the real treasure had been the journey itself. Every challenge he faced along the way had taught him something valuable: patience, strength, resilience. The moments of doubt and struggle were what had shaped him into the person he had become. In that moment, standing at the top of the mountain, Arjun understood that life was not about reaching a final destination, but about the experiences and growth that come from the climb. The mountain was a symbol of his own life's challenges, and conquering it had given him a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly live. With a heart full of gratitude and wisdom, Arjun began his descent. The village below awaited him, but he knew now that the journey would never truly end. There would always be new mountains to climb, new challenges to face, and new lessons to learn. Life's greatest rewards come not from reaching the destination, but from the journey itself. Embrace the struggles and challenges, for they are what shape you into the person you are meant to become. Chapter 8. The Dog and His Reflection. On the outskirts of a small village, there lived a dog who was known for his cunning nature and his love for food. One day, while wandering through the village, the dog stumbled upon a large, juicy piece of meat. His eyes lit up with excitement, and without wasting a second, he snatched the meat in his mouth and ran off, eager to enjoy his find in peace. As the dog made his way toward the nearby river, he couldn't stop thinking about how lucky he was. "This is the biggest piece of meat I've ever found," he thought to himself. "I must hurry and find a quiet place to eat it before anyone tries to take it from me." When he reached the riverbank, the dog decided to cross the small wooden bridge that spanned the river. But as he trotted over the bridge, something caught his eye, a reflection in the water below. The dog paused and stared down into the river. What he saw astonished him. In the water, he saw another dog, and that dog had a piece of meat in his mouth too. The dog, of course, didn't realize that the reflection was his own. He thought the dog in the water had an even bigger piece of meat, and greed immediately clouded his judgment. Without thinking, the dog opened his mouth to bark at the reflection, hoping to scare the other dog and take his meat. But as soon as he barked, the piece of meat he was holding slipped from his jaws and fell into the river with a splash. The dog stood there, stunned, as he watched the water ripple and his precious meal disappear beneath the surface. In his greed to have more, he had lost everything. His stomach growled in hunger, and he realized, too late, the cost of his actions. Tail between his legs, the dog slowly made his way back to the village, no longer thinking about the meat he had lost, but about the lesson he had just learned. The reflection in the water had been nothing more than an illusion, a trick of his own greed. If only he had been content with what he had, he would have enjoyed a fine meal. Greed can lead to unnecessary loss. Be content with what you have, and don't let the desire for more make you lose sight of the blessings already in your hands. Chapter 9. The Wise Old Man's Advice. In a bustling town full of noise and activity, there lived a young man named Kiran who was always frustrated. No matter what he tried in life, he could never find peace or satisfaction. He worked hard, but the stress of his daily routine wore him down. His mind was constantly racing with worries, and he felt trapped in an endless cycle of problems. One day, Kiran heard about a wise old man who lived on the outskirts of town, a man known for his profound understanding of life. Desperate for advice, Kiran decided to seek out this man, hoping that he might find some answers. After a long walk, Kiran finally reached the old man's modest cottage, nestled in a quiet grove far away from the town's hustle and bustle. The old man welcomed him with a warm smile and asked him what was troubling him. "I am constantly overwhelmed," Kiran began. "I work hard, but nothing seems to bring me peace. My mind is always filled with worries, and I feel like I'm missing out on life. I need your advice, wise one. How can I find happiness?" The old man listened carefully and then handed Kiran a spoon with a few drops of oil on it. "I will give you some advice," he said, "but first I want you to do something for me. Take this spoon and walk around my garden without spilling any of the oil." Kiran looked at the spoon, confused but willing to trust the old man's instructions. He carefully walked through the garden, his eyes fixed on the spoon, making sure not to spill a single drop of oil. When he returned, the old man asked, "Did you enjoy the beauty of my garden?" Kiran shook his head. "I didn't see anything. I was too focused on the oil to notice the garden." The old man nodded and then said, "Go back and walk through the garden again. This time, don't worry about the oil. Look around and take in the beauty of the flowers, the trees, the sky. Experience everything." Kiran obeyed, and this time, as he walked, he noticed the vibrant colors of the flowers, the songs of the birds, and the gentle breeze that rustled through the trees. The garden was peaceful, filled with beauty he hadn't noticed before. But when he returned to the old man, he saw that the oil had spilled from the spoon. Smiling, the old man spoke again. "You see, my friend, the key to happiness is balance. You must carry the responsibilities of life, the oil in the spoon, but you must also remember to enjoy the beauty around you. If you focus only on your burdens, you will miss out on life's joys. But if you forget your responsibilities, you will lose what you are carrying." Kiran stood there absorbing the wisdom of the old man's words. For the first time in a long while, something clicked within him. He realized that his constant focus on work, stress, and worry had caused him to overlook the simple pleasures of life, his family, nature, and the little moments of peace that were always present but unnoticed. He thanked the old man and left the cottage with a new perspective. From that day forward, Kiran made it a point to balance his responsibilities with an appreciation for the world around him. He worked hard, yes, but he also took time to enjoy life's beauty, finding peace and happiness in the simple things. Balance is the key to a fulfilling life. While we must carry our responsibilities, it's equally important to take time to appreciate the beauty around us. Don't let the weight of life's burdens blind you to its joys. Chapter 10. The Cracked Pot. In a small village nestled among the hills, there lived an elderly water-bearer. Every day, he carried 2 large pots, each hung on the ends of a long pole that he balanced across his shoulders. The water-bearer would walk down to the river, fill both pots with water, and then carry them back to the village. One of the pots was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water, but the other pot had a crack in it. By the time the water-bearer returned to the village, half of the water in the cracked pot had leaked out along the way. This went on for 2 years, with the water-bearer delivering only 1.5 pots of water to the village each day. The perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, but the cracked pot was ashamed of its imperfection. It felt like it was failing to do its job properly. One day, the cracked pot spoke to the water-bearer as they made their way down to the river. "I am ashamed of myself," the pot said. "Every day, I lose water along the path, and by the time we reach the village, I am only half full. I'm a failure." The water-bearer smiled gently and said, "Have you noticed the flowers that grow along your side of the path, but not on the other side? That's because I have always known about your flaw. So I planted flower seeds along your side of the path, and every day, as we walk back from the river, you've been watering them. For 2 years, I have been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate the village. Without you being just the way you are, there wouldn't be these lovely flowers, bringing beauty and joy to everyone." The cracked pot was stunned. It had always seen its flaw as something to be ashamed of, never realizing the unintended good it had done along the way. It wasn't a failure after all. It had a unique purpose that no other pot could fulfill. From that day forward, the cracked pot no longer felt ashamed of its imperfection. It took pride in knowing that despite its flaw, it was able to bring beauty into the world, one drop of water at a time. We all have our imperfections, but it's often these very flaws that make us valuable in ways we can't see. Embrace who you are, because even your perceived weaknesses can bring beauty and goodness to the world. Thank you for listening to this collection of motivational stories. Each one carried a unique lesson, reminding us of the importance of patience, self-acceptance, balance, and resilience. As you go through life, remember the cracked pot that brought beauty despite its flaws, or the butterfly whose struggle made it strong. Life's challenges are not meant to break us, but to shape us into the best versions of ourselves. I hope these stories have inspired you to see your journey in a new light. If you found this audiobook helpful, be sure to check out more of my content for deeper insights and inspiration. Until next time, remember, your story is still being written, and it's never too late to turn the page.